and be an approachable alien on the internet. Because again, I was an alien too. Like
Yeah.
I was not figuring it out. I could not understand what everyone's problem was, but there was like, finally I got the message, just put it out there and you will find people who really get it. And I was like, great. And the free will of being able to do that too. They can scroll past or not. They don't have to read it. It's so freeing.
Hey, everybody, it's Tanya here. I'm so excited to share an excerpt from my new podcast called Women Working with Light. It is a series of interviews with women from around the world who are doing what they love in service to themselves and to others. In this episode, I speak with Alexis of Ascension Diaries, and she shares a great take on who the Starseeds are. And then we chat about guardianship, intuition, community, and how starseeds are now waking up at every age.
Breaking that trauma bond by educating ourselves, putting the onus and responsibility on ourselves. And the star seeds are a term that came in very strongly for me during the beginning of this to discuss beings that have traveled through and from the stars that are not our own star, but to our own planet through our star system connections and come here with their own unique vibration because they were called here, almost probably magnetically called here, as if they are a photon of light themselves, just landing on this earth to add their particular perspective from their area in space or from their star in space. And that seems to be like the best way to describe it. But the personal experience that it causes seems to have a pretty common behavioral pattern, which is when someone kind of gets into puberty range and their pineal gland starts to activate so they can, become an adult. And that in that process, they're feeling like an alien. They're not understanding or relating to their peers as they're also going through the same changes, but there's differences and their desires and their motivations and their temperaments and their abilities to perceive other people's emotions and their ability to telepathically communicate seem to be on a heightened level compared to their peers. So there's this group of people in, a sample group of a classroom or an office space. There is one or two people that are having this frequency difference almost, or they're tuned to a different radio station and they can't figure out why. They're tuned to a different station, but they want to be here. They want to hang out with everyone else, but they're constantly feeling this alienation. And so in a beautiful way now, there is this channeled information that these souls are not from here. They were not originally grown here. They originally grew or fractaled out on another place, and somehow, through the process of death and rebirth, managed to come here to answer the call of pain and sorrow that was happening here, a lot of it. And they came here to help with alleviating the pain and sorrow with their soul experience from another place that may have already gone through these lessons. And they've fortified these abilities and techniques to help with these shifts in consciousness or these shifts into certain parts of space that cause certain changes. And that's what a lot of people are feeling called to do. So they all have their different flavor. They're figuring out maybe what star systems they are familiar with now, because they'll look outside and keep looking at Cassiopeia for some reason over and over and over. Why am I staring at Cassiopeia? Oh, well, check it out. There's civilizations living there. Potentially you used to live there. And now you're bringing your homies and all your memories and good times from that spot is shining here through you. And now you can add that flavor and also find other people who relate to you. Because if you know who you are and where you're from, it's much easier to find your peers. And so, again, putting your frequency out there online attracts your peers and attracts your tribe again, because people just love your frequency. They love what you're doing. So they just want to feel it more. And to have that experience now online and not have that experience as a child is so nice, but it's a part of the process of integrating all of this, in my opinion, too, is healing the pain of starseeds as they had matured, feeling like an alien until they finally found their tribe, which some of them have yet to even do. So finding the tribe is the goal, because once you at least know that there's people on the earth with you that are your family from where you're from, then you can get back to work, because that panic or that ungroundedness that you're feeling is now grounded again, and you can work from the heart. You can feel more confident, I feel like. So connecting star seeds is a big thing. It's been a very rapid and successful journey of bringing starseeds together from different groups, and I've been able to be an ambassador of many, and then in my areas the other groups are pairing up and grouping off, and I'm just now we're going to be channeling more galactic messages, because these groups now, are learning to hear their own messages themselves and channel too. It feels like that's the next stage, and translate what these star systems are now sending us intelligently to help, as we are the ground radio that's already pre-tuned to that area.
Yeah.
It's easier to pick that up so we can help and then integrate our societies, which are going to have ground rules and proper engagement for respectful community affairs. And that's sort of the next step, I feel like, which is why I'm training guardians as well, because that's part of it.
And I see that happening with the people that are being drawn to you. And I feel very fortunate to have been doing this work for a couple of years now, where I have a particular group that's wants to come through. And so I hang out with their energy for a week or two, and I channel messages, and I anchor their energy into these paintings. Every group has completely different energy. A lot of the symbols are fascinating to me, because I used to be a photorealistic painter in acrylic. And then I took a break, and then I was like, I want to learn how to loosen up, because everything for me was precise, tight minutia, like replicating what you see onto paper. And so I started to do watercolor, which you cannot control at all. And it was such an interesting process. And so I would sit down, and then all of a sudden this energy would come through, and it was like, okie doke. And it was totally in opposition to the way I worked. There was no planning. I didn't know what colors I was using. I had no designs in mind. And yet I would see this replication of energy, vibration, and shape come through. So the Arcturians would do a very specific shape. The Antarians would do a very specific shape. The Andromedans, the Orions. The Orions are really fascinating. It looks almost like computer chips. And every group is very different. And I find that people that really identify with that energy, it's the same thing you're talking about, right? It's like a calling card. It's like, oh, hey, there's community over here. And so for me, that's the joy of what I get to do, is I'm creating a community point for these people to go, yeah, I resonate with that. That's really interesting. Oh, there's other people that do that? Oh, that's really cool. And it's such an exciting thing to be part of, and it continues to come through, and I get to work with different groups all of the time. But it's so interesting to hear the way that you're working with it and taking a step forward, because not only has the community started to gather with you, they're now at the point where they're looking for someone to help them put it into motion. And I see that happening with you, especially with the guardianship. And I love that that's happening. And that was one of the best descriptions of the Starseed experience that I've ever heard. Thank you for that. That was so good. I really love how you said that.
I liked it too. I was like, yeah, I'm going to keep going with this one. Like, I had some help, I'm sure, on that. People have busy lives. Like, they are really guardians. They have people and places and things they're looking over, and you can only take up so much of their time. But like, I want to be able to make it as easy as possible to support you guys, because I love you and I want this loving, happy world. Like, it's so easy, but it's like, it's been so many weird obstacles to get here. But it's like, now it's like a hot knife through butter. I'm like seeing it, and it's like
the like, juggernaut.
Yeah, it's good.
You know, it's like the whole concept of the disclosure, right? The soft disclosure, where the information is there. It's in the consciousness. It's just a matter of whether people want to tap into that or not. And I love that that's accessible for people that are perhaps my generation, or maybe even the ones that followed. It wasn't really there yet. So we had these experiences. I love the relationship of saying, the teenager experience of adolescence and the alienness compared to the actual being an alien, because that it's like anything that you're thinking is part of your reality, and it's the same as learning to trust your intuition. So for people that are finding that a challenge, the thing that I always say to start with is, when you have those subtle feelings, that little voice in the back of your mind that's like, try this, and you're like, no, I'll go over here, and the voice like, hi, try this over here, and you're like, okay, that looks interesting. When you start to follow those little voices and begin to trust them, then that's where your intuition comes on. It comes on more intensely the more that you follow it. And so when you have these feelings of, yeah, I keep looking at this star system, the Pleiades. I'm saying Pleiadians because that is almost always the first place that people that are waking into the starseed paradigm kind of go to, which is cool because their energy is really strong and light and playful and joyful. So I've made a joke about this before, about the people that really get into the starseed origin kind of rabbit hole, and they're like, oh my god, I'm Pleiadian and I read this list and I'm everything on this list. But sometimes the lists are really generalized, so you have to really learn to use your intuition, and if it feels good, follow it. And if it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, I'm really curious about this dark thing, I want to see what that is, but it gives you a little bit of fear, you're not really sure about it, take a look at it. But if it doesn't feel good, let it go for another day and find something else. And if something else is feeling light, it's making you feel at ease, you have a sense of comfort and calm in your body, or excitement and joy, and you want to create, follow that. That's the big key. So to bring that all back into the starseed experience, it's so exciting to see that happening in social media, because now you can have access to it on so many platforms in so many ways, and see that there are other people out there. There is community. You can connect to others that get you.
Be an approachable alien on the internet, because again, I was an alien too. Like I was not figuring it out. I could not understand what everyone's problem was, but there was like, finally I got the message, just put it out there and you will find people who really get it. And I was like, great. And the free will of being able to do that too. They can scroll past or not. They don't have to read it. It's so freeing. So social media has been a huge gift for us, and I know that was the aliens for sure.
It really has, and it's it's like the whole concept of the disclosure, right? The soft disclosure, where the information is there, it's in the consciousness. It's just a matter of whether people want to tap into that or not. So if you're somebody who's feeling isolated, or if you are isolated, if you're because this is a very common experience. Those of us that hold these higher frequencies, that hold this energy of knowingness, whether that is to multidimensional concepts or higher frequencies or energies or information for other people, you're often holding it in a situation where those around you are not. And my personal thought is that you intentionally chose that when you incarnated, because it gave you that duality. It gave you that experience to create that in you. You wouldn't be who you are now if you didn't have those dark times and those challenging times. But there is support for you now if you are going through these, the dark night of the soul, many people refer to it as. If you are going through that, there are people out there who can help you, who believe you, who have had the same experience, that same resonance. And that's the power of social media and work like what Alexis is doing and some of the work that I am doing. So journey into it. There is no age limit, This is not a singular, and I really want to make this point because I'm 54 and I'm seeing people my age waking into it, but also sort of being like, oh, that's for teenagers. That's what the young kids are doing. But it's not true. It's all ages. There are people in their 80s I've seen in some of the Starseed groups online. So, let go of the judgment. Let's play. Have some fun.
100%.
And I love that that's accessible for people that are perhaps my generation, or maybe even the ones that followed. It wasn't really there yet. So we had these experiences. I love the relationship of saying the teenager experience of adolescence and the alienness compared to the actual being an alien, because that it's like anything that you're thinking is part of your reality, and it's the same as learning to trust your intuition. So I hope you enjoyed that as much as we did, and don't forget to check out the podcast and my websites for more about starseeds, channeled galactic art, and so much more.